And good morning. Two major military flashpoints this Sunday, both with strong consequences for the U.S. After fierce fighting, Iraqi troops have reached a town in northern Iraq that was under siege by ISIS militants. Overnight, the U.S. launched airstrikes against ISIS fighters near the town and dropped humanitarian aid. An estimated 15,000 people had been trapped in the siege. And in the Ukraine crisis, the European Union is now giving Russia an ultimatum: change course within 1 week or face tougher sanctions. But this morning, a defiant President Putin calling for talks on statehood for eastern Ukraine and saying it is impossible to predict when the crisis will end. So how should President Obama respond to both crises? I'm joined by Dianne Feinstein, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Feinstein, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're approaching another 9/11 anniversary, and we've heard of this dire warning. Great Britain has raised its security level. How serious is the ISIS threat, the threat from ISIS and other related groups, to the American homeland?
Well, I believe it's potentially very serious. They have announced that they don't intend to stop. They have announced that they will come after us if they can, that they will, quote, spill our blood. They have indeed done that by beheading Mr. Foley and who knows how many others that are unknown. This is a vicious, vicious movement, and it has to be confronted. I think Senator McCain and Senator Graham really laid the basis in Saturday's New York Times in an op-ed for confrontation, and I happen to agree with what they said.
Then is the president wrong to signal indecision by saying that we still don't have a strategy against ISIS?
Well, in that same newspaper, down below the McCain op-ed is one by our Secretary of State, John Kerry. And in that, he does, in fact, lay out a strategy, which begins next week at the NATO conference, NATO summit, talking with our NATO allies, the United States taking over the presidency of the Security Council in September, and the beginning of a strategy to put together a coalition of the willing, if you will. I mean, it's a savage movement, and in this case, they have money, they have direction, they have moved rapidly to cross the Syrian border, take over Mosul, and then give a sermon from the mosque in Mosul. They took over the Mosul Dam, and well, that's changing now, but I believe their goal is Baghdad. And I think it's very, very serious, and we have to have a strategy to deal with it in Syria and in Iraq, in this new caliphate, and to prevent that caliphate from expanding.
The fact is they have been on the march now for months, if not years. So why does the president still say we don't have a strategy yet? Doesn't that project weakness from the White House?
Well, I mean, I know what you want me to say, but I'm not going to say it in that sense. I think I've learned one thing about this president, and that is he's very cautious. Maybe in this instance, too cautious. I do know that the military, I know that the State Department, I know that others have been putting plans together. And so hopefully those plans will coalesce into a strategy that can encourage that coalition from Arab nations. Jordan's at jeopardy, Lebanon's at jeopardy, the UAE and other countries are in jeopardy. There is good reason for people to come together now and begin to approach this as the very real threat that it in fact is.
The president back in January told the New Yorker magazine, David Remnick, that ISIS is the JV team. That was clearly wrong.
Well, I think it's wrong too. I think it's a major varsity team, and if you want to use those kinds of monikers, but I've seen nothing that compares with its viciousness. I've been on the Intelligence Committee now since before 9/11, and I've watched this evolution of non-state actors into world terror very carefully and closely. And this is really the first group that has the wherewithal in terms of financing, the fighting machine in terms of a structure, a heavy equipment, heavy explosives, the ability to move quickly. I mean, they crossed the border into Iraq before we even knew it happened. So this is a group of people who are extraordinarily dangerous, and they'll kill with abandon.
Was that an intelligence failure, or was the White House not listening to the community?
Well, I think our intelligence in Syria has not been good for a number of reasons, but I do know that the breaking through of the borders was not known ahead of time. I think a lot of that hopefully has been repaired now, and I think the intelligence community is well aware of the need to get up and running in a major way, both in Iraq and in Syria.
And do we have to go to Syria to get at the root of ISIS?
Well, I don't know exactly who is where when, but there's no question but they have a home base in Syria. They have expanded that base now into Iraq. That part of it is a fighting base, and it is devoted to taking over cities. It failed to hold the Mosul Dam, thank God. I believe it is on its way to Baghdad, and I believe that they will try to attack our embassy from the west, which is a Sunni area where I believe they are infiltrating now. So I think this is extraordinarily serious, and I think the president is wise in this sense. What I understand he's trying to do is give an opportunity for this new Iraqi government, new because of a new prime minister, al-Abadi, to begin to make the moves which offer an alternative to the Sunni people in his country.
I want to ask you about Vladimir Putin, because there is a lot of talk that Putin cannot be stopped, and that he has moved with tanks, with artillery, with troops across the border. We're calling it an incursion, not an invasion. Is there anything we can do to stop Vladimir Putin?
I think there ought to be some direct discussions with Vladimir Putin. I think he is the singular figure in Russia. Russia is a huge country. The Ukraine is a large country. The Crimea is gone. I think there ought to be steps taken to send people to talk with him, to have our Secretary of State talk with him personally. I think this is deeply personal with him. I really do. And I think he's calling the shots himself. And he's enjoying intensely high favorability in his country. People say, well, just wait till the sanctions bite and the economy slips. I don't think so. I think if Russians follow him, and up to date they are following him, the Russians are very brave and very long-suffering, and they will tough out any economic difficulty.
And you don't see sanctions working in the short term?
I'm not sure they will work. I'm not sure that shakes the people that much. And it's the people that have to be spoken to, and it's their solitary leader, Vladimir Putin, who has to be spoken to.
Dianne Feinstein, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being with us on Meet the Press.